lovely leaders. Welcome to the Not Your Dad's Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsey, your go-to girly for all things self-love, feminine leadership, and those foundational skills behind the strategies that we were just never taught. So today we are going to talk about delegation. Delegation is something we all know we have to do, especially as leaders, but why is it so hard? It's super easy to say, just delegate it, just hand it off. But if it were truly so simple, everyone would be doing it and micromanaging wouldn't exist. And most leadership trainings will tell you that delegation is simple, but no one talks about how deeply personal delegation can feel. And delegation isn't just handing off a task on your to-do list. It messes with everything you've been taught about being a good worker or a reliable person and a strong leader. So today, we're not talking just about delegation as a skill. We're talking about it as a practice of unlearning and rebuilding trust with yourself, with others, and with the version of you that doesn't have to do it all, especially doing it all alone. So on paper, delegation seems pretty straightforward. Assign the task, set a deadline, offer support, move on. That is the leadership textbook version we've all been taught. But for so many of us, especially high-performing women who were praised for being the ones who get it done, delegation doesn't feel strategic. It actually feels really vulnerable. Let me paint you the real scene when it comes time to delegate. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You sit down to finally hand something off. You know your plate is full. You know it would make sense to give it to someone else, but the spiral begins. What if they don't do it right? What if it reflects poorly on me? What if they think I'm lazy for asking? What if I look less competent? What if I have to fix it after? And underneath all of that, it's not about the task at all. It's about your identity as a leader. Because when you've built your leadership on being dependable, efficient, on top of it, letting go doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like a risk. It's giving, okay, I delegated, but now I have trust issues. Now what? This is why we can't talk about delegation as just a strategy or a soft skill. We have to talk about it as something we feel. So let's go even deeper into why it can feel so emotionally charged. Because the leadership books don't talk about the identity crisis that happens when we delegate. So here are 3 of the most common belief patterns I see in my clients and what I had to work through personally myself. Like I have been coached on these as well. Okay, first one. Our value lies in how productive we are. We live in a world that loves hustle, that praises being the last one online, the first one to step up, and the one who just handles it. So it's no surprise that so many women have tied their worth to how much they can juggle, how fast they can move, how much they can carry, how little they ask in return. And if you grew up being the one who picked up the slack, whether it be at home, in school, in your early jobs, then productivity didn't just become a habit, it became part of your identity. So when it comes time to delegate, to take something off your plate and hand it to someone else, it doesn't feel like a smart leadership move. It feels, kind of wrong because delegation doesn't just challenge your calendar, it challenges your identity. And when your identity has been built around being the most productive, dependable, I've got it person in the room, letting go doesn't feel freeing. It feels unfamiliar. This is why so many women wrestle with delegation, not because they can't do it, but because somewhere along the way, they started to believe that their worth lies in what they do, not who they are. Okay, second, using control as protection. So, not all control is ego, some of it is actually trauma. And if you've been burned before, maybe someone let you down, maybe you got judged for someone else's mistake, maybe your reputation took a hit, then of course you learn to hold everything really close to your chest. So then control becomes a nervous system strategy. The control says if I'm in charge of everything, I can protect myself from disappointment or shame or judgment. So when people say, just trust your team, and it's not vibing with you, you're not being stubborn, you're just being protective of yourself. And so I'll just use me as an example. So if you've been around here for a while, you know that I used to work in really toxic workplaces. When I was working in these workplaces, it was a coping strategy to just do everything myself. There was this one time the person I was managing did a really good job at a task I had handed off to her. And instead of praising both of us, my super toxic boss said, "Watch out, Lindsey, she's coming for your job." So, so that sent me the signal that handing things off is dangerous. And to protect myself and my job and my livelihood, I just need to do everything myself, which then, of course, led to burnout because I was doing it all myself. And also, my team hated me because I didn't trust them and give them any work to do. So, this is something I really had to work through when I was going through my own coaching around this topic. I promise I've been there too. Okay, third, when you have really high standards, letting go feels like a risk. And this is a big one because for a lot of women I work with and talk to, the issue isn't that they don't want to delegate. It's that their standards are really high, and those standards are there for a reason. You've worked hard to be known as the one who gets it right. So, handing something off can feel risky, not because you're a control freak, but because you care. You care about your work and your team and this reputation that you've built. But also, you don't want to be seen as that kind of boss. The one who dumps tasks and disappears, the one who's labeled difficult, cold, too much. Even if you logically know you're being responsible by delegating, there's that little voice saying, are they going to think I'm lazy? Am I being too much right now? Is this going to change how they see me? And that's not about ego. That's actually people pleasing in disguise. That's trying to be seen as a good leader by making yourself overly available, overly accommodating, overly just like everything. So then you end up doing it all, not because it's sustainable, because it feels safer. But here's something we don't talk about enough. When you actually give something away, it might just come back. Just think about it. It might just come back better than before. Maybe they add a detail you hadn't even considered, or they bring a fresh twist that elevates the whole thing. And yes, it initially probably feels threatening. Like, wait, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? But it doesn't mean you're replaceable. It means you've just created space for more to happen, which is a huge part of leadership. And you're not supposed to carry it all. You're not supposed to know it all. You're a leader, not a magician. Delegation isn't you being too much. It's you trusting that leadership isn't about doing everything. It's about knowing when it's time to let go and just letting that be okay. So, those are the three I see the most. And to recap, the first one is that our value lies in our productivity. The second is we use control as protection. And third, letting go feels risky. And I send you so much love if you have felt any of these, as it's not easy to work through. And sometimes it's hard to admit or talk about. We always want to show up and do our best and lead in a healthy, not harmful way. But sometimes our experiences, mindset, and nervous system just get in the way. So please know you are not broken. You're not bad at leadership. You're literally just a human. So, what can we do to make this easier on ourselves? First, we can reframe our thoughts around delegating. Shift your story from I have to do it all to be valuable to leading includes trusting others and honoring my capacity. And second, you can journal on this question. What am I afraid will happen if I actually let go? What am I afraid will happen if I actually let go? And once you have some awareness around that and you get your nervous system aligned, then you can start delegating from this calm space, not control. And when you're leading from this grounded place where you've checked in with yourself, you've let go of control, and you trust, it doesn't just shift how you feel, it shifts how the whole team works together. Because when you delegate, you're not just handing off a task, you're giving someone a chance to feel trusted. And when someone feels trusted, they start trusting themselves more. And when they trust themselves more, the work moves smoother, faster, and with way more ownership. So, delegation done well makes everyone feel more empowered. And that is the kind of leadership we are building here. Okay, friends. That is it for this episode. If you found this helpful, please, please, please share it with your friends, drop it in your work Slack, or, share it on socials. So I also just wanted to end by saying that I am currently coming to you from military occupied Los Angeles, and I'm not going to get into all of it, I promise. But I do want to say that I stand with our amazing, lovely immigrant community that is the heartbeat of our city. And I do not agree whatsoever with how everything is being handled right now. And I will leave that there. I've been keeping up with the news very closely the last couple of days and determining how we can help. But sometimes we just need a break. And maybe you need a small break and distraction from the news too. So here we are. So thanks again for being here, and thank yourself for being here. And I will see you next time. Bye.